Hello, class. All right. So as Pastor Alexander was saying, this is my first official sermon here on a Sunday morning, because I did one like once whenever we first started and we were doing Sunday evenings. It was just different. I was different. The church was different. So like under these circumstances, like this is my first time, and it's huge. God's been preparing me, so thankful for this opportunity. All right, I'm gonna do a trial run real quick, see if this works. It does. Okay, so guys in the back, if you see me go like this and it's not working, that's just you press the button then, because that means it's not working. Okay, so as she kind of highlighted before, I've been with them from the beginning in the humble days of when this is not what it was, and so that was really eye-opening for me in so many ways. Because, all right, a little backstory. Okay, actually, let's read this together, because this is one of my favorite verses, and I just feel like this needs to be a staple in your life too. Okay, so 1, 2, 3.
For in this hope we are saved. Now hope that is seen is not hope, for who hopes for what he sees? But if we hope for what we do not see, we wait for it with patience.
Amen. Jesus, we love your word. Please help me to speak for you today. So yeah. Who hopes for what he sees? And so me growing up, suburbia, North Fort Worth, Keller, everything's pretty normal, day-to-day life. But this is a picture of me with my family. I've been an aunt since I was 6 years old. So, my mom's from the Philippines, and before she met my dad was in the Navy, they met, they married, they came here. Before they met, my mom had a son with another guy. And then he has his beautiful family out there now. And so in 2013 was the first time I visited them as an adult, which was huge. And when I thought about this message, I was like, there's no way I can't bring up my family, because it's been kind of foundational in how I've set up like my thinking and what God's done through that. So that's my niece, my nephew, and my other nephew. And when I went there, I just saw how they lived, and it was so humble and so beautiful. Doesn't come from much. I again visited the Philippines this past year in the summer, and this time I got to see my mom's hometown. And we went to my mom's hometown this time because the first time I was still too young, and it's a little scary. Like, my mom lives in that place where you need to like cover your head and look like a Muslim, because that's the kind of people that live there. So I stuck out really, really bad. But that's where they're from. But they're like super Christian. They love the Lord. They go to church, but they live among all of these, I don't know, they live among a lot of Muslims, and I would be scared if I was them, but they're just so joyful, and they just live their life, and it's beautiful, and they're so full of joy. And so, in 2013 and in 2018, I got to go and hang out with them, and I don't know, that was a sermon to me, like that whole summer, because I spent like a month with them, and I just got to see how they lived, and that set the trajectory of my current life. So the message of my sermon today, on the first slide, it said 2020, and by that I mean vision, because if I didn't have this sight, I want a family that loves the Lord too, and I want to serve a higher purpose like they do. I don't think I would have done that if I hadn't seen, wow, this is their reality. It's not just one day, I'll be good like them. But so I was able to see the way that they were living their life, and I wanted to model myself after that. And so, next slide, please. Okay. So, I want to start off by saying that God has a plan for us, and we can trust that it's good.
Amen.
And so, Psalm 139:16 says, "You saw me before I was born. Every day of my life was recorded in your book. Every moment was laid out before a single day had passed." And so, I don't know how you came to be on this earth. Maybe you were planned, unplanned, but God says you were planned. There was divine appointment. Your presence on this earth was definitely sought out. It was definitely something God had in mind, even if it wasn't in your parents' mind or what happened.
That's right, man.
And then James 1:17 from the Passion Translation says, "Every gift God freely gives us is good and perfect, streaming down from the Father of lights, who shines from the heavens with no hidden shadow or darkness, and is never subject to change." And so, God has a plan for us, and it's good. Because that's the nature of God. He can't do bad. There's nothing in him that would allow something awful to happen. It's just, you simply can't. Like, you don't have an apple tree one day and then a grapevine the next day. There's no switching of that. It is what it is and it stays that way. And that's our God.
That's right, Lord.
And so, an example that I want to bring up is Genesis 12:1-3. The Lord had said to Abram, "Leave your native country, your relatives, and your father's family, and go to the land that I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you and make you famous, and you will be a blessing to others. I will bless those who bless you, and curse those who treat you with contempt. All the families on earth will be blessed through you." This is like, I have many favorites, okay? This is one of them. This is another one. I love it because you're reading all throughout Genesis, and all of a sudden, chapter 12, you just come across this. Like, who is this Abram? Like, he wasn't in like any, like you read about Adam and Eve, and then Noah, and then Noah's Abram, and God's like, here. And you're just like, okay, thanks. Like, it comes out of nowhere, but this is what God does in our lives too. He just shows up. And he's like, here you go.
That's right.
I need you to leave what you know, and I need you to go after this. And it's as simple as that. And so God planted this vision into Abram's mind. And mind you, at this time he was not very young. You know, he said many incredible things to Abram that in the natural should not have been possible. But yet, as we go on through the story, we see that it was very much possible. And even when Abram tried himself to fulfill the promise, God worked through that, and it was fine. And so you also see throughout this story, because I could have put like the whole story of Abram up here, but I decided not to, so I'm going to just summarize this. But God reminded him often, like, hey, I said this. I'm doing this. Like, don't worry about it.
Amen.
And Abram was a little nervous, so he would say it again. So it's a repeat of the vision. Like, whenever we lose sight of things, like, that's okay. God sees that, and he's going to honor his promise to you, and he's going to remind you. And that vision that he put on your heart, he'll remind you. And don't worry about it. And so, next slide. Planning and preparing is good, right? So God's got this plan, and it's going to be great. And so when I went to the Philippines, he kind of gave me like a long-term vision. Like, I want a family. I want to serve higher things. Like, I just want to like make a difference in the world. Like, that's how I felt walking away, right? So I spent a month there. I come back. And I was 19 at the time. And so I came back, and my original plan was to go to school for nursing, right? So I'm going to school, and I'm just doing the same thing. Like, I'm going to school, and the only thing that really changed when I came back from out of the States was that I broke up with my boyfriend, so that was good, right? That was a change, because like, that wasn't good for me. But then I hung out with the same people, my habits were the same, my school was the same, like there wasn't much change. And so after a while I began to get really, really frustrated, and I couldn't really put my finger on it because, again, I'm growing in my maturity in Christ, so like I'm not filtering everything as I should be. Not everything is coming to me clearly. But the thing about a change in vision, whenever you realize that you need glasses, or if your prescription changed and you don't get it, like you start to get a headache. And so metaphorically, I got a headache. I just got tired of like, there's this vision, I'm gonna see it come true. Like nothing I did really like lined up with that. But we also don't really have the answer, so don't really know what to do with my time. And so, Romans 12:2, we've actually said this many times throughout the past weeks because it's a good one. So, don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Amen. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. And so I love that God not only plants a seed, but he waters it too.
That's right.
He plants a vision within you, but then it's not, I just didn't know where to look, right? So if you go to the Bible, like all the answers are there. If you're in a similar situation, the answers are all there. But you'll know God's will for you. And I think that was the disconnect I was having. I was like, I see things, but they're not what I want. And being a young adult is weird because I'm also like the first person in my family to go to college. And when I went to the Philippines, like I saw the struggle, like they really value education. I was like, I value education too. I'm gonna take it more seriously. So I thought that meant just like delving further into my studies, but just in so many ways, like nursing was not the course for me. So I curtailed that. And the next part of my journey was Proverbs 15:22. Plans go wrong for lack of advice. Many advisors bring success. And this is where I'm very thankful for the Tatahes, for my previous church family because I was stuck in this limbo of like the now, I want to be this person, but I'm not yet. And so the wisdom in many counsels, like I had a pastor, I had a young woman's pastor, like I had people to talk to me and tell me things, and I didn't know what to do. Sometimes we just need instruction. We don't have all the answers. And so we can look to the Bible, we can look to our friends, we can look to those that we look up to. And yeah, and so actually Pastor Alexander's daughter had gone to a Bible college out east, and I was like, that sounds like a good idea. I'm gonna do the same thing. And don't get me wrong, like I didn't do it for any noble effort. Like I was like, oh, I'm gonna be a pastor. I'm gonna do some like incredible missionary work. I just wanted to leave. Like I just wanted to leave the routine that I had. I didn't have noble ambitions for it. But even in that, like God works in that. Like even when your heart's not in the right place, but you're willing to follow anyway, God works with that because He just does, because that's the God that we serve. And then in Colossians 3:1-2, it says, so if you're serious about living this new resurrection life with Christ, act like it. Pursue the things over which Christ presides. Don't shuffle along, eyes to the ground, absorb the things right in front of you. Look up and be alert to what is going on around Christ. That's where the action is. See things from His perspective.
Amen.
We're called New Perspective Church for a reason.
That's right.
I'm teaching about vision today because like our eyes just need to be set on things above. It's so easy to get transfixed on what is going wrong. You look on earth like everything's wrong, right? But God is right. And He is above us, He's before us, He's ahead of us. We're good. Our eyes are there and we're good. And so to see things from His perspective, like I'm totally stealing this from another sermon that I heard, but if someone tells me I'm out of my mind, I say thank you, because I don't want to be in my mind, I want to be in Christ's mind. Like I want to know what He knows, I want to think like He thinks. Like what's going on here? I don't want it. I want all the things above. So this is only part of our youth group, okay? This is only part. There's 9 people right here, but then we could at least double that if everybody showed up every single Wednesday, Thursday. And I'm so thankful for this opportunity. Like trust me, when I said I went to Bible college just to get away, like I didn't have in mind, like I want to be a pastor. I didn't have any of this in mind. But when I was unsure about what I wanted to do with my life, I know I heard this from some, like maybe God did, but like you're just faithful with the things that He puts before you, right? So I don't know if I'm going to do this forever, but I know that's what I'm called to now. I'm called to lead youth. Like I'm called to hang out with them during the week. And, like I'm just amazed that they want to come and like hang out with me, you know? Like that's huge. This is huge. I don't know how to emphasize this enough, but like the kids showing up, they're like half our congregation or our entire congregation half the time. Like they're huge. And they're so instrumental to our sound, to our cameras, to everything. And I'm like, you guys are like preteens. Like you might be like you're doing incredible things and you don't even know it. And this is just the beginning. And that was speaking to me on like how my faithfulness, even when it doesn't make sense, like it will lead to new things. It's the whole like Mr. Miyagi complex, right? You're waxing on, you're waxing off, and then all of a sudden you're like a karate champ. And then it's the kind of like the same sort of theory there. You just do what you're called to do, what's in front of you, and then eventually you get there.
Right.
But it's because it started with that initial vision of like, okay, God, I want this, I see this. It's only in my mind's eye though, but if you continue to listen to your mind's eye, if you continue to listen to the dream, the vision that God's given you, it can become a reality. We're Christians, we speak things into being. Like that's exciting. I don't have to live in this world. If I don't like it, I can speak out against it and say, God, that's not right, that's not you. I reject that. And you can speak what you want to see. It doesn't have, the reality that you see doesn't have to be. Sickness doesn't have to be. And so if we just speak out in God's name and say, hey, this is you, not that. This is you. We can follow that. And life's good.
There you go. Is that good?
All right, Luke 16:10. If you are faithful in the little things, you'll be faithful in large ones. But if you are dishonest in the little things, you won't be honest with greater responsibilities. So again, the word of God just like hit me. I know it was at some point whenever I was like transitioning here to take on more roles, because like you see a need, right? And you're like, I want to help, I don't know, like if I can do this. This is no little thing, don't get me wrong, like caring for kids or like leading kids is no small thing. But this is not exactly like the first thing on my list that I wanted to do, but God said be faithful, just be faithful in this. Like I know that you're seeing things in your mind's eye that you haven't seen in reality yet, but like just be faithful. Be faithful in these things and then you'll be faithful with more. And then Proverbs 29:18, where there is no prophetic vision, the people cast off restraint, but blessed is he who keeps the law. If I didn't have a long-term vision, like I would be living like any other 25-year-old, you know? I don't know what people do, but it wouldn't be this probably. I probably would be at church 3 times a week, like I'm gonna just say it right now.
Probably still be in bed.
I'd probably still be in bed from a late night the night before, but like,
Partying.
this is where I am right now. And it's because I've got a prophetic vision. Like I know God, he's called me to things. I can't like pinpoint it, like I don't know what a better life means for me, but like, it's going towards God, right? You don't need like this defined like image of what you're going after. Like I don't think Steve Jobs was like, I'm gonna make the brand new iPhone and it's going to like encapsulate half the world. Like people, that's usually not how that works, I've come to realize.
Exactly.
But it turns into that thing because they're faithful with like their dreams, their creative streak, like they let things work out in them and they don't always try to define it. And so this next one, we also don't need all the details to go forward. This is another one of my favorite verses. And Peter answered him, Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water. This is when Jesus is walking on water, something nobody's ever seen before. It's the middle of the night. It's scary. And Peter's like, well, if this is you, like, I'll go. But if not, like God's like, come on, like, come out here. It's me. It's really me. And even though, like, later on he starts drowning, right, because he starts to doubt, and then Jesus pulls him out. So, like, even if you're going and you're following the vision, which is often on choppy water, you know, I also heard somebody say this once, if you're going in the right direction, you'll probably meet a lot of resistance, okay? Just because naturally, there's an enemy out there who's working against us, and if they see you're going in the right way, there's going to be obstacles. But it's the same thing, like, if you start to doubt the vision, or if you start to doubt your dream, it's okay. Like, Jesus will reach out and grab you. Like, he never lets you drown.
That's right.
And that's such like a physical example of what goes on spiritually, what goes on mentally, what goes on emotionally. You just say, I need help. And I'm so glad that I live in 2019 and like, you know, mental awareness, like we're allowed to talk about the things that make us sad, right? We're allowed to have more of a discussion, and I'm really thankful for that. Because I know you just gotta say you need help, and that's not somebody's first reaction, you know? Like, I can't do this on my own. Because everybody, right? We've got this pride issue, it calls the fall. We don't want to ask for help. And when things are difficult, we don't like to admit that. So just ask for help, and Jesus will. He'll always get you out of the water. It doesn't matter if you're already drowning or if you're like on the way down. You're good. You're in good hands. Love Ecclesiastes. Probably my favorite book in the Old Testament. Ecclesiastes 9:11 says, I have observed something else under the sun. The fastest runner doesn't always win the race, and the strongest warrior doesn't always win the battle. The wise sometimes go hungry, and the skillful are not necessarily wealthy. And those who are educated don't always lead successful lives. It is all decided by chance, by being in the right place at the right time. I really like that, because it just, that's God. Like if we try to do all those things that we think leads to success or what have you, like that doesn't leave any room for God to do his thing. Like whenever we put ourselves and our minds and our plans at the center of things, like that doesn't give space for God to work freely. And he'll never make you do something, but that's why you always got to leave that room, you know, to let him do those things. And this really hits home with me because I just went through 7 years of college, and if he's about to tell me it doesn't always lead to a successful life, but still, it's a point of like humbleness, like, okay, God, I think I know this, but I'm gonna let you do this anyway. And it's all decided by chance. And Ecclesiastes 11:5 says, just as you cannot understand the path of the wind or the mystery of a tiny baby growing in its mother's womb, so you cannot understand the activity of God who does all things. And that just kind of like further backs up, like, we don't know. But this calls us for deeper reliance, a deeper dependence, to say, I don't know, I need help.
gift, I think.
Okay, so I've been going through Exodus quite a bit with the youth. In fact, that's pretty much all we've gone over for the past 2 months because I feel like Genesis and Exodus, like they said, they have like all the stories that are referenced to. They have I don't have all the stories, but they have so many things in there. And it's so good. So 32, 9 through 14. Then the Lord said, I have seen how stubborn and rebellious these people are. Now leave me alone so my fierce anger can blaze against them and I will destroy them. And I will make you, Moses, into a great nation. But Moses tried to pacify the Lord that is God. Turn away from your fierce anger. Change your mind about this terrible disaster you have threatened against your people. Remember your servants, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You bound yourself with an oath to them, saying, I will make your descendants as numerous as the stars of heaven, and I will give them all of this land that I have promised to your descendants, and they will possess it forever. So the Lord changed his mind about the terrible disaster he had threatened to bring to his people. Like, this guy prayed, and God said, okay. But it was because he reminded God, like, hey, you said this, and you said this, and you said this, and if you do that, that doesn't mean like the ultimate vision, that doesn't give you all the glory. Not that God needs reminding, let me just emphasize that, God knows all things. And God doesn't need reminding, but he wanted that conversation with Moses. He wanted to get that from him. He wants your heart, not anything else. It showed like Moses was ready to lead. He was ready for this. And so God changed his mind about it. So if you feel like there's a vision on your heart, like Zion, you want to model, you want to be in that industry. And I believe that for you too. So we're going to pray with you. Amen. We're going to pray against opposition with you. Because if you think that's for you, if you believe that's for you, then it's for you. And you're allowed to ask God, and you're allowed to ask him to take down your giants for you, to fight your battles for you. And then in 2 Samuel 12, 16 through 20, David begged God to spare the child. He went without food and lay all night on the bare ground. The elders of his household pleaded with him to get up and eat with them, but he refused. And then on the 7th day, the child died. David's advisors were afraid to tell him. He wouldn't listen to reason while the child was ill, they said. What drastic thing will he do when we tell him the child is dead? When David saw them whispering, he realized what had happened. Is the child dead? He asked. Yes, they replied. He is dead. Then David got up from the ground, washed himself, put on lotions, and changed his clothes. He went to the tabernacle and worshipped the Lord. After that, he returned to the palace and was served food and ate. And so this is another example of like when we pray, sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes what we ask for is not the reality that we're going to walk into. But his reaction was what our reaction should always be whenever we don't get the right answers. That's right. His servants were a little worried that he might go off the deep end after hearing that news. So backstory, this is a child that came from, David doing something he shouldn't. So this is his reaction. He prayed. He got up from the ground, washed himself, put on lotion. So he presented himself. He presented his best self to the Lord. He said, it didn't happen the way I wanted it to, but you're still God.
Okay.
And that's it. That's all that we have to go back to. And so I'm just going to wrap this up in saying that, New Perspective Church it's been my home for like 3 years now. I came here in May 2016 to help start a new thing, see with a new perspective, and it's been quite the ride. This is like one of the first pictures I took. 302 West 6th Street, Irving, Texas. Forget the zip code.
75060.
It took me about 2 years to be able to get here without a GPS. I still live in Keller, which is a good 35 minute drive, but it's because there's a vision in me.
Amen.
It's because I know this is where I'm supposed to be. There's plenty of churches between here and there. I could have chosen any one of those, but I know that I've been called here. And the fruit isn't right in front of me. Like this, if you guys could have seen it before, like we've come such a long way. And like the youth is just the beginning of it. And there's so much more that's gonna happen. The carpet, the youth, the signs outside, the fact that we have a soundboard, like all of this stuff is huge. And whenever I went to Bible school, whenever I went to the East Coast, I went to Bible school, I served among various churches there, and I got to see the way they did church right. But none of that prepared me for a church plant, which is what this was. Much less a church plant that actually had a building, but we didn't have, like, just everything. There's a new vision for everyone, right? So you can't model yourself after Abraham or after Moses. You can learn from them, but you have to know that the vision for you is for you. Like, that's not something that's shared, like, what's that saying? God leaves the 99 and goes after the one. It's the same thing. You get your own personal vision. You get that own personal relationship, connection with God. That's your own vision. And you champion that. You don't let anyone take that from you. Because I know people are probably going to call you silly. People think I'm strange for driving so far for church. You know, there's many a long way. Or just anything, really, that doesn't make sense to the human mind. But you have that burning feeling almost like if I don't, then I'm going to be really mad at myself. That's how I kind of think through things. Where like, if I don't, like, I'm going to be mad at myself. Like, God's not going to be mad, but it has become a vision for me on my heart. It's not something that God's told me to do. I mean, it is, but like, we always have that choice to follow or not, right? It's been a burning, a pressing on my heart. So, this is the God we serve, Ephesians 3:20. Now all glory to God, who is able, through his mighty work, to work within us, to accomplish infinitely more than we might ask or think.
Amen.
Maybe you don't know what the vision is. Maybe you don't know, or you don't see enough happening to like stir you on to like keep going and doing the thing. This is our God. He said infinitely more than we might ask or think. Like, even if it doesn't come to mind, that's okay. He's given you the sea, he gives you the water, he is the sun. Like, you just let yourself be willing. Because that is a common thing through everybody in the Bible. If it goes well for them, it's probably because they let God do the work. It's probably because they let God be God to them. And so, yeah, just let God be God in your life, and remember that it's not, you don't compare yourself to other people and their vision and dreams, right? Don't do that. It's so easy to. And for me and my family, like, I'm the first to go to college. And then I switched from nursing. And then I went to Bible school for a couple of years. And then I came back, and like just last Monday, guys, I graduated. I graduated. It's been 7 years since I started, but I finished. And it was in business school. And it was totally nothing, right? Nothing that I thought. Doesn't make any sense to me. But I know that it will. I know that it will, and it does right now. And it's through this church that it helped figure out what I wanted to do. It helped me figure out that the best way I can serve God is through post-secondary education, and it's through business. And even now it's helping me. I had like 6 classes this past spring, and every single one of them required me to get up in front of people and talk. Every single one of them. And so it's these things that we don't quite understand how it leads to the end, but we know that it's God, and that's really all we need to know. And so with that, I'm going to pass the baton.